Okay, welcome back. That was an interesting first session, and for the second session, I would like to start with David and ask you about this whole thing about the outsourcing industry being expanded to a country like Malaysia. Now, as we know, many of the top Hollywood movies and all that, they do a lot of this creative work, rendering services in various parts of the world. The thing that comes to mind for me is Singapore and the Philippines. You know, I got a friend who actually did work for Iron Man and Star Trek. And so, what do you think of such services being a key point here in this in Malaysia?
Good question. I think the content and creative industry is definitely the important industry. In fact, the survey shows that it is supposed to hit about 650 billion by 2011, right? And in Malaysia, we do have a strong education system in place to be able to churn out good content, good students with content knowledge. For example, the likes of Lim Kok Wing universities, the Uni KL, the One Academy. I've met a lot of such the students from those colleges, and they've been doing wonderful jobs, you know. And many of those also have applied for grants and so forth, and that's how I come across some of their work, right? And some of the successful production, for example, Saladin. Saladin is a co-production between the Malaysian group and also the Al Jazeera TV network, and has received rave review, you know, from Middle East. Same goes with another animation series like Saladin, like the Gang, you know, Gang, another cartoon series, Pin and Pun or something, you know, that's already been featured in the TV. That has also received very good review. So that proves that we do have the necessary expertise and talent to be able to come up with some good work. And especially in the area also on construction and engineering, we have been over the years been involved in a number of projects, and a lot of these engineers, draftsmen, they do have the necessary skills, you know, to do rendering jobs. In fact, to move even beyond just rendering, to even come up with proper design and creative work. You know, I know a lot of my friends who has been doing landscape design, for example, for the Middle East, architectures. You know, so I think we have moved up the value chain, and the government is also encouraging this. In fact, content creative is one of the key areas that MDEC is now focusing and driving very hard, you know. So I believe this is a good opportunity for outsourcing.
Okay. So if you were to talk about content, creativity and all this stuff, and you were say to be sourcing for workers for this company from America, what would be your main criteria you would, you know, be talking about what this person in Malaysia can offer them, you know, in terms of incentives as well as that. Why is it cheaper to base it here, or is it because we are the best brains here?
Okay, yeah, that's a very good question. I think obviously the first thing that will create a business case for work to be transferred over will obviously be the cost reasons. And secondly, of course, is the availability of the talents. And I think just what has been mentioned by David, talents are obviously there, and it's also still in the process of, we're still in the process of actually churning more and more people. I think one of the greatest challenge I would think in Malaysia that we are currently facing, it's how do you attract these talents to work in the shared services outsourcing space, because we are talking about the ability to support 24 hours operations globally, and this requires the workforce to have the ability to be able to work in shifts. It is still not a very attractive proposition for a lot of people, you know, new graduates that comes on board, because they probably may have not seen that the value of being part of this BPO business itself here, you know. But I would think that this represents the greatest job opportunity at this moment of time. Most of the industries are essentially not hiring, but the BPO business, we are still hiring, and we are still continuously looking for talents, basically.
Hanson, I mean, we don't want to get into a situation whereby, like the manufacturing industry, where the reason for people to relocate to Malaysia is just low cost,
Yeah.
and it ends there. So when the cost factor is no longer a factor,
Yeah.
they move out,
Exactly.
right?
Yeah.
Our sole attraction should
Yeah.
be to attract these people here because our brains are here, and they don't mind working. Say, as an example, when America is asleep, we are awake, and
Correct.
vice versa.
Correct.
What are your thoughts on this?
I think that's a good question. I'm also just thinking about that as well. The graduates that we churn out, I think effectively, I mean, besides just sort of, teaching them the technical skills and the abilities to do the work, I think they have to be exposed to the idea and the real notion that, it's a global economy, right? So you don't sort of, come into work and expect 9 to 5, right? I mean, your hours may be shifted.
Yeah.
And I think there's a certain perception that we as a nation need to sort of address, that the world changes whether you like it or not, right? The way we remunerate someone may also change, right? The fact that, maybe you sort of have different hours or you're sort of, measured differently, we remunerate you differently as well. So I think that needs to be sort of, gradually ingrained in the students. It comes down to maybe education. It comes down to the awareness. So it's not just, the textbook, but holistic education, perhaps. Yeah.
Okay. In this context, would you say that local graduates, as compared to foreign graduates, who would have the advantage in this context? David?
Who would have the advantage? In terms of
In terms of their hireability,
high ability,
yeah.
I think depends on which
Yeah.
field you're referring to.
Yeah.
I guess in terms of the content and creative just now, relating back to the question, I think that in that area we do have a strong workforce and knowledge workers
Okay.
who are on par with some
So
of
there
these
is a lot of
overseas.
opportunities for local
But what they
workers.
need
Yeah.
is exposure, and also, like what was earlier spoken, there's also need to have a lot of awareness out there. For example, what it takes to actually come up with a movie or even a production. I think there's still a lot of gaps, knowledge gaps in that, and I think if we can inculcate better knowledge among students at very early levels, early days, I think there will be more take up, and there will be more positive for
All
the
right.
industry.
We'll be back
Yeah.
shortly. Okay. Thank
Yeah.
you.